Hi folks, how you doing? It's James, JT at the movies, back here again in the movie space, though stood up ready to rock and roll this time for you. I'm going to jump back in to the next section of going through my collection, and I want to talk about my sort of like thriller, mystery, crime, whodunit section of DVDs for you. This was a series I started a few months ago, and due to, sort of getting caught up with other bits of commitments, and then obviously life somewhat returning to normal, and sort of, going through, doing more at work and things like that. It was a series that sort of trailed off for me, and I'm very sorry about that, because I did say that I wanted to get these done fairly regularly for you. Anyway, I've taken the time today to get this done for you, and I hope you enjoy it. Like I say, it's a thriller and sort of crime, mystery, whodunit section. I call it thriller overall, but there's quite a lot of probably, niche things in there and subcategories, and I've decided to keep the categories really broad when organising my films, just because it makes things a nightmare to put away if I start saying, right, okay, well, this is a thriller that's got this actor in it, or a thriller where this sort of thing happens or whatever, and you'd have all these little sort of mini niche categories with 2 or 3 titles in. So I've, like I say, kept it quite broad for now. That might be something I change in the future. We'll see as the weeks and months go on. But yeah, anyway, let's without further ado, let's dive into the first part of this collection. As I mentioned just in my intro, now we're going to look at my thriller, crime, sort of mystery, whodunit section. If you like, it's very broad, but that works for me for this moment in time for categorising them. Otherwise, if I was doing all sorts of little, sort of like mysteries, thrillers, whodunits, or whatever, I'd have loads of little niche categories, and it just really wouldn't work for me. So the first one there is a Polish import of a Netflix film with Keanu Reeves, The Whole Truth. We've then got Eden Lake, To Live and Die in LA, Tequila Sunrise, good film that, and really like that one. One of my dad's favourites as well was that. The Heist, Now You See Me, and the sequel, Now You See Me 2, We Own the Night, Crash, The Assassination of Richard Nixon, Papillon, Boondock Saints 2, The Assignment. And then we come down here, because if you remember, I covered these in the last section there, what's in my sort of like horror. So we come down here now, and we've got Flawless, great film, Michael Caine and Demi Moore, Atomic Blonde, Mississippi Burning, Justice, City Hall, Suburbicon, the original Millennium Trilogy, the Girl Trilogy, the American David Fincher remake of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Adore that. I'm so gutted that they didn't make the sequels. Obviously the reboot, The Girl with the Spider's Web, that's got Claire Foy in it. Yet to watch it, but I've heard mixed things. But I'm going into it with an open mind. So we've got an Alfred Hitchcock box set now. We've got Strangers in the Train, Dial M for Murder, The Wrong Man, Stage Fright, I Confess, and North by Northwest. Some great classic Hitchcock films in there. The Butterfly Effect, so this is the director's cut. I've got the theatrical cut on Blu-ray, but for some reason, whenever I've tried to get the director's cut on Blu-ray, I just can't seem to get a hold of it. Just the theatrical cut, but I actually prefer the director's cut, so I've kept hold of my DVD for that. We've then got the Hannibal Lecter series, starting with Manhunter, Red Dragon, Hannibal, and Hannibal Rising. Now, I have got Silence of the Lambs in a box set with Fargo and The Usual Suspect, and I'm not too sure where that is in all this lot. In fact, there we go. I found it. It's in the thriller section, and we'll get to it in a short while. But I have got Silence of the Lambs. I've also got it on Blu-ray. So that's why that one's missing there. A Lonely Place to Die. Quite a good little independent thriller, that one, set up in Scotland. It's a long time since I've seen it, but if you've not, I recommend it. The Call, good one with Halle Berry. Intruders, Hard Candy. And let's have a look. The Corruptor. Hard Boiled Sweets. The Juror. The Chamber. Brubaker. Primal Fear, that's a good one. The Jacket. I've yet to watch that one. Taking Lives, didn't mind that one, need to give that one another go. It's got Ethan Hawke and Angelina Jolie in it, and it's one of these with a few twists and a few turns in it and stuff like that, and I seem to remember the ending thinking it was cleverer than it was, but it wasn't bad. The Village gets a lot of hate from M. Night Shyamalan. I don't mind it. I can see why the ending is divisive, but I didn't mind it. The Sixth Sense, classic. We've got the Donnie Darko series there, the director's cut, the standard cut, and then the very, very, very poor sequel. To be right honest, I think when I do a bit of a purge of the collection, I think the sequel's probably going to be one of the ones that either gets donated or sold on or whatever, because it's not probably something I'm going to watch again. But the first one I do quite like. Jacob's Ladder, Red Eye, Copycat. A lady that I work with, a friend of mine, recommended that to me years ago, and I enjoyed it. It's one I come back to fairly regularly. Misery, I'm your biggest fan, and yeah, good film. It's I think, is it Kathy Bates and James Caan, isn't it? Obviously based on Stephen King novel. But yeah, really gruesome stuff with that. The original and the Martin Scorsese remake of Cape Fear, love both of those films. Elfie Hopkins, I got tickets to go and see a local premiere of this one. My granddad won a competition and wasn't interested, so me and my mate went. And it's Ray Winston and his daughter, and then whoever this chap is here. And that's about all I can remember from it then, other than that there's basically murder and sinister plot going on in the local town, and she ends up dealing with it all. I must rewatch that. On the floor so we can see the bottom shelf now. And Justice for All, Brotherhood of Murder, The Crying Game, Widows Searching. Quite liked that one. I think it's John Cho, and he's looking for his missing daughter. But the film's sort of shot through like the eyes of like Facebook and FaceTime, and an interesting way of doing a found footage film. Men of Honor, Virgin Suicides, Anatomy of Murder. Ooh, you have to excuse the shaky cam here. We're not in a found footage movie now. Identity, The Accused, The Odessa File, Derailed, Law-Abiding Citizen. That is a brutal film. All the money in the world. Obviously, quite a bit of controversy around that one. T2, Trainspotting, Denial. Spring Breakers, The Machinist. What a great film. Hand That Rocks the Cradle, The Recruit, quite like that one. Looper, the absolute classic One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Custodian, and another classic in Vertigo. So we've got a little Poirot section there. We've got the remake, the most recent remake of Murder on the Orient Express. We've got Death on the Nile, and that's the follow-up to the 1970s Murder on the Orient Express with Albert Finney. I can't remember who stars as Poirot in that one, but it's not Albert Finney, but the chap that took over came back and did a few sequels. Anyway, that's the first sequel. And then there's this one here, and then there were none, obviously based on the Agatha Christie story there. That looks to be a made-for-TV, fairly recent one. I got that in one of the deals in HMV quite recently, where, you know, you've spent so much here, have this one for $2.99 or whatever it is, and thought, why not? 'Cause I do like a good whodunit. The Two Jakes, you'll see that I've put a little title on that. It's because I've actually imported it from, I believe, Poland. And so just so I knew what it was on the shelf, just printed off a little sleeve there and stuck that in so that I know what it is. Find Me Guilty, straight to DVD Vin Diesel vehicle. Not terrible, not amazing. There Will Be Blood. The Name of the Rose, that's a Sean Connery one where he's sort of, I think, solving murders and things like that. It's one the mother-in-law recommended, and I picked it up on her recommendation, but I've yet to sit down and actually watch it. Stone Cold, Tom Selleck, The Boy Next Door, FX, Hoffa, Battle Royale, In Too Deep, Scorpio, Awake, Two Hands, Detroit, Red Sparrow, Texas Killing Fields, I Am Legend. I don't know whether that one should have gone in horror really or not, but anyway, Reasonable Doubt, Hardwired, The Saint. I loved that film. I thought Val Kilmer did a really good job taking over for Roger Moore. And it's a shame that we didn't get a few sequels to that, but I think I've actually read quite recently in an article that Val Kilmer in his heyday could have been quite difficult to work with, and I think that's why we didn't see him in a lot of sequels. Let's have a look. Dangerous Minds, The Beach, Rogue Trader, Traffic, The Insider. Let's have a look. You must apologise, or either I must apologise for my camera work here. Official Secrets, Deception. And that is the film that is actually called Deception, not Reindeer Games, which is called, for some reason, Deception here in the UK. Although I have got the other Deception, which is Reindeer Games. Eye in the Sky. The original Ocean's 11, the remake, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13, and Ocean's 8. And then I've put Logan Lucky next to it as well, because it actually feels like quite a similar film. I loved that film. If you've not seen Logan Lucky, folks, check that one out. Colour of Money, and that was a sequel, is it, to The Hustle? And it's got Tom Cruise and Paul Newman in it anyway. So look, the Presidio, The Post, The Big Short. Watched The Big Short quite recently, really enjoyed that. And then I picked this box set up just for The Rainmaker, because I've yet to come across The Rainmaker on its own. I've actually got Changing Lanes and The Firm elsewhere, but it was £1 for the box set in a charity shop near my mum's a couple of years ago, and I thought, well, for the one film, I'll pick the box set up. So we've got The Freshman, Road to Perdition, Gothica, The River Wild, loved that one. Mark Felt, that's going to be one that probably gets donated, to be fair. I watched that, picked that up Christmas just gone, and thought, yeah. Say it's got Liam Neeson in it and an absolutely stellar cast, and I normally love my legal thrillers. Really didn't care for that one. Bridge of Spies, Casino, The Ghost, sometimes known as The Ghostwriter. Warriors come out to play. The director's cut, for anyone who's not seen it, it's the one where they sort of intersperse like comic panels with it and things like that. Interesting take on it. Alas's dad didn't rate that cut of it though. He prefers the original. I don't mind it myself. Fourth Protocol, Michael Caine and Pierce Brosnan. I absolutely love that film. It's similar. It's got a similar tone to Octopussy, if you like James Bond, and it's also got a similar tone to, for those who remember Michael Caine's Harry Palmer films that he did in the 60s and then reprised in the 90s, The Nice Guys. What a great film that is. It's written and I think directed by Shane Black, who did Lethal Weapon, and it really feels like Lethal Weapon mixed with LA Confidential. Really great film. Arlington Road, Sleeping with the Enemy, The Illusionist, Sleepers, Extreme Measures. I quite liked that one. Gene Hackman and Hugh Grant, a bit of a medical-based thriller. The Deep End, not the Pete Townsend spin-off band after he left The Who in the 80s. Ricochet, Heathers. So that one I actually picked up, and I knew I wanted it. It's an Arrow one, as you can see. And I grabbed it in an HMV sale and just went, oh, that's the one I want. And I meant to get the Blu-ray, but ended up picking up the DVD, as you can see. Not the end of the world, but Toy Soldiers, Deception. Here we go. So this is the one I was just, it's in too tight. I won't get it out. But that's the one that's Reindeer Games. But for some reason over here, we call it Deception. Eastern Promises, Power of Attorney, Instinct. That were a good one. I think that's Cuba Gooding Jr. and Anthony Hopkins. And Anthony Hopkins is locked up, and he's been living wild for years. And there's a whole story with it. Really good stuff. Marathon Man, great stuff. Spinning Man, not a bad Pierce Brosnan one. A direct-to-DVD vehicle for him. He plays a bit of an aging detective. Guy Pearce is opposite him as he's a teacher who can't remember due to amnesia whether or not he's committed a crime, and it's their game of cat and mouse. So there's The Snowman then, adapted from I think the Joe Nesbo book. Not a great film, to be right fair. Art of the Steel, The Good Shepherd, Monster, what a brilliant film. The Iceman, Swordfish, Donnie Brasco. I keep meaning to pick up the premium collection Blu-ray of that, because the DVD's obviously not as good picture quality, but it'll wait for now. Solace, Colin Farrell and Anthony Hopkins. Not a cracking film. Not terrible, but not amazing. Under Suspicion, Morgan Freeman and Gene Hackman sat in a police station talking to each other for 2 hours, and it's one of the most riveting films I've ever seen. Really would recommend seeing it if you've not. Secret Window, U571, The Cell, A Perfect Storm. Have seen that many years ago on the TV, but I've yet to watch the DVD by the looks of it. Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, Ronin, Scarface, Falling Down, what a great film. Felon, Dog Day Afternoon, King of Comedy. Obviously the film Joker took a lot of inspiration from that. Again, I've seen that on the TV when it did the rounds on Sky Movies a few years ago, but I've yet to actually pop the DVD in. I quite often do this. I'll catch something on the telly and then think to myself, oh, I enjoyed that, and I'll pick it up when I see it for a good price. Sentinel, Thomas Crown Affair, the remake. I've got the original downstairs in my sort of classic section. Talented Mr. Ripley, Armageddon, Focus, Passenger 57, Bloodfather, 3,000 Miles to Graceland, and Domestic Disturbance. We then come down here to the next shelf. We've got Duel, Night Watch, True Romance, Sleuth, A Clockwork Orange, Twisted. Stigmata, Before I Go to Sleep, that were alright for a straight to DVD one with that. It's got Colin Firth in it, and I think it's Nicole Kidman opposite him. Trespass, that's a good one. It's a dated one, but not a bad one. There's a boutique Blu-ray of that out. I can't remember now. It might be 101 Films that's done it, but there's a decent version of it out now if you're interested. It was out of print for the longest time, but you can now get that one for about 15 quid if you're interested. Cellular, Kim Basinger, and Chris Evans. The Heat of the Night. Bad Times at El Royale. I really liked that one. It felt like whoever was making that was really trying to evoke their inner Tarantino. Possibly a bit of David Fincher as well. But yeah, really, really good film that. Really enjoyed it. Midnight Meat Train. And speaking of the man himself, David Fincher, we've got Zodiac. Possibly my favourite David Fincher film. Either that or The Game, I'm not sure. City by the Sea. Didn't mind that. Mindhunter. Again, I'll show you this one actually, because you're probably thinking, why has it got a typed cover? So I picked this up in a charity shop. Obviously it's an ex-rental. It's got the front cover, it's got the back cover, but some absolute weapon decided that they were going to cut out the spine for some reason. So I'm not entirely sure, but it was 50p, so I thought, do you know what, why not, we'll pick it up. Plays just fine. I can't remember if I said it or not, but The Other Man, The Interpreter's alright, nothing cracking though. Again, when I have a bit of a purge, I think that one might be one of the ones up for the chop. Final Analysis, Payback, the theatrical cut if you like. I need to pick up the director's cut because I've heard it's far superior. Phone Booth, really liked that one of the Joel Schumacher's later efforts. Really enjoyed that. Place Beyond the Pines, do you know, I've yet to watch that. When I first sort of started getting into watching YouTube and delving into our sort of movie community that's here on YouTube, I used to watch a chap, and still do whenever he posts, called Daniel Orton, and he recommended this film to all his viewers, and so I ended up picking it up, and I've actually yet to sit down and watch it, which is a real shame, but it's one of those I will get round to. Black Klansman, great film. Inside Man, great film. Devil's Advocate, again, great film, as is The Bone Collector. That's one of my favourites for Denzel, is that. Carlito's Way, Domino. Me and my dad used to really enjoy this one. It'd be on quite often on like ITV4 or, you know, whatever, one of the sort of the Freeview channels, and quite often we'd watch that. John Q, I remember watching that on Sky Movies years ago, and absolutely really enjoying it, so picked up the DVD. Constant Gardener, one of my favourite films of all time, just absolutely brilliant stuff. The Ipcress File. So I mentioned earlier that Michael Caine did the Harry Palmer series. These next few are those. So we've got the first one, The Ipcress File, and it was based on a book series by, I think, Len Deaton, and produced by the same people, or some of the same people at least, that did the James Bond films, and it was another sort of attempt by them to sort of cash in on the whole Bond mania, spy mania thing that they'd launched in the 60s. Obviously stars Michael Caine as an ex-convict. Rather than going to prison, he can do some work for the British government, so he's more of an everyman than James Bond. Ipcress File, to be honest, is my least favourite of all of them. It feels quite dated and very slow. Funeral in Berlin and $1 Billion Brain, however, have got more of that sort of, sort of over-the-top plot, and really sort of, they're more Bond-esque. But I'll be honest, I think the ones I enjoy the most are when they did the revival in the 90s, and they did Bullet to Beijing and Midnight in St. Petersburg, and we joined Michael Caine again as Harry Palmer, but this time he'll be in his sort of mid to late 50s, and he's working as a PI in Russia, just after the end of the sort of the Cold War, and he gets involved in a couple of little capers there, and it's really nice to sort of, catch up with the character again, and I almost wish that we could have seen something like that with Sean Connery with James Bond in the 90s, like a one-off adventure. But yeah, I really enjoy those anyway. That series might become that series of films might become a video for me on its own, because I do like talking about them. After the Sunset, Entrapment, Argo, what a brilliant film. I've just bought the director's cut of that on Blu-ray, and I think the Blu-ray has the theatrical cut as well, so I'll probably be getting rid of that at some point soon. Layer Cake, No Country for Old Men, 21, Serpico, Untouchables, Paycheck, Once Upon a Time in America, Perfect Murder, The day after tomorrow, Lucky Number 7, the remake of Rear Window with Christopher Reeve, his first acting role after his accident, God rest him. Taylor of Panama, The Long Good Friday, Mercury Rising and The Jackal. Picked that up for The Jackal, but actually thoroughly enjoyed Mercury Rising as well. Another Fincher movie, Panic Room, LA Confidential, Fatal Attraction, Chain Reaction, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the most recent remake with Oldman and co. Heat, the standard theatrical cut, there you go. The Score, Red Belt and Monsters Ball. Dead Calm, my mate Phil recommended this one to me, picked it up a good few years ago, love it. The Conversation, picked that up after watching Enemy of the State with Gene Hackman and Will Smith, and obviously a lot of inspiration was taken from this film, quite liked it. Pelican Brief, great thriller. Eyewitness, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, another Shane Black classic. Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer, fantastic as the two leads. The Firm, Runaway Jury, Kevin Smith's Red State. I don't know what I was expecting when I went into this film, but it wasn't what I got, but I did enjoy it. No Way Out. And then the box set with Silence of the Lambs, Usual Suspects and Fargo. And then that's Cash. Again, another one my mate Phil recommended to me, Sean Bean. It's a bit of a heist movie. Rainfall, I think it's got Jet Li and Gary Oldman in it. Picked it up just for the cast, but have yet to watch it. Training Day, one of my absolute favourite movies of all time. American Hustle, not bad. Grows on me with each watch. Mulholland Drive, I think that's a David Lynch one, isn't it? Time to Kill, brilliant thriller, absolutely fantastic. Obviously, Matthew McConaughey, Sam Jackson, and Sandra Bullock. State of Play, Collateral, Wild Things, Catch Me If You Can, one of my favourite Spielberg ones. Do you know, having time to think about it after what I'd said about Zodiac, I think The Game is my favourite Fincher movie. Gangster Squad, Prisoners, Mud, The Russia House, Just Cause, To Catch a Thief, The Verdict, A Walk Among Tombstones, one of the many sort of Liam Neeson Taken-esque films to have come out in the wake of that film and his sort of revival, if you like. Class Action, a good little legal thriller. Smoking Aces, double bill, didn't mind the first one, second one, meh. The Alex Cross movies to date, so the reboot prequel, if you like, Alex Cross, and then Kiss the Girls and Along Came a Spider. Kiss the Girls is by far the best of them, but I think I'm in a minority though, because I think I'd take Alex Cross over Along Came a Spider, based on my last viewing anyway. Nick of Time, and Last Man Standing, best not forget that one with Bruce Willis. The General's Daughter, A Bronx Tale, can't mention that next one. Machine Gun Preacher, Public Enemies, and A History of Violence. So we've got just a few more thrillers here along the top, and then the action section starts. And I know you'll be thinking, well, a lot of these, James, probably blend into each other. And it's like I said, I didn't want to be too precious with the categories, because I really didn't want to have, too hard of a time putting new titles away. So I've gone fairly broad with them. But anyway, we've got Shutter Island, one of Scorsese's recent efforts. Quite like that. Side Effects, not a bad one. Simple Favour, really liked that actually, from Paul Feig, isn't it? Feig. Normally does comedy, and this is a thriller with a dash of comedy, but quite good. High Crimes, a good military thriller. Don't Say a Word, brilliant. Michael Douglas, Sean Bean, great stuff. Jagged Edge, my aunt recommended this to me years ago, and it took me ages to track it down because it's out of print. I haven't obviously looked for it since, because I've got a copy that works here, but it's Jeff Bridges and Glenn Close and a handful of other folks that always show up in 80s movies, and it's a bit of a whodunit thriller, really worth checking out if you see it. American Psycho 2, absolute Money Monster, Assault on Precinct 13, The Lone Ranger, Crank, Jack Reacher 2, Jack Reacher, the John Wick trilogy, Phantom, The Guest, Spy Game, Run Lola Run, the Sicario movies 1 and 2, Rock and Roller, and then the first remake of Shaft, or the first sequel, if you like, with Sam Jackson from around 2000. And that is where my sort of thriller section ends, if you like, folks. Thank you again for watching, folks. It's been a real pleasure to take you around the next section of my my DVD and Blu-ray collection. I promise I'm not going to leave it as long before I do the next section, as the full collection overview and the horror section that I did have got obviously a lot of interest, and I'm really, really grateful for that. If you've liked this video, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving the video a thumbs up, and dropping me a comment with what you liked about this video and what you'd like to see going forward. Please take care of yourselves, folks. Continue to stay safe as all the things are going on in the world right now. And thank you again. I will see you again next time. Cheers.